Hello and welcome to Warhammer Wednesday. I've picked my favourite model out of the most recent pre-orders, which is the Death Guard Plagueburst Crawler. I think it's a fantastic little model. I say little because it's smaller than I thought it would be. Maybe I'm just used to all the big tanks and things. But yeah, one of these models will set you back £40. It's a fair bit of money. I think it's just about worth it, and I'll go on to that in a moment. But let's have a look at the model itself. It was quite straightforward to build. The only sort of issues you'll have is with these spikes, getting rid of the mould lines on the top and in between and in all those little gaps. But the tracks went on quite well. The wheels went on. They're a bit of a pain, but you don't really need to get rid of the mould lines on the wheels, but you do for the tracks, and that is a bit of a pain in the backside. But the tracks don't go all the way there. It's just covered by a cowling. The cannon and the rotation cogs and things, they all went in very well. The only issue I had, which is glaringly obvious, is this big gap here between the side armour of the tank and the top, and it is glaring, and that's not because of this side panel. It's all to do with this top. My top was slightly warped, and then when I glued it down, it glued down fine, but as you can see, it's just the way that the plastic is made, that it's been made so that this is up. So it doesn't matter how much sort of glue you put on there. You know, when I first glued this together, believe it or not, I used a clamp and I clamped it, you know, to the track, but it won't actually clamp it because it's this bit here, and there's no way you could get like a little clamp in there. I mean, clamping the sides is one thing, but clamping this little bit here, it's just not going to happen. So just be mindful of that. Hopefully your sort of top carapace isn't bent at the ends. It sometimes happens with the Rhino kits as well. So all I'm going to do is put a bit of green stuff in there, file it away, and then it'll be as good as new. So just bear that in mind when you're building the model. Everything else worked out fine though. You've got the equipped it with the heavy slugger and the entropy cannons. I'll talk about the rules in a moment. And then obviously you've got this big demolisher type cannon on the top too, and this big dozer blade. So it's a good little model. It is smaller than I thought, and we'll go through some size comparisons in a moment. It does have the options to equip it with the plague spitters, and someone told me that it's a rot hail volley gun, which is like the three barreled sort of weapon. Unfortunately you don't get two plague spitters, so you can't magnetize them and then just pop them in and out. You could magnetize this barrel, I suppose, maybe to the weapon mount itself and put on the plague spitters. Completely up to you though. I'm only planning on having two of them, so I'm going to have one of each, but this one I wanted to have all the weapons as 36 inches, so the tank is effective at I say 36, but its movement is 9, but you get where I'm coming from. Now the all the extra parts you get, you can literally count them on one hand, and it is just the barrels for the plague spitters. I was a little bit disappointed with the spare parts from coming from a Rhino or from a Predator kit, which are cheaper than this. Well, the Predator's 35, so it is cheaper. The Predator, I think you get 3 sprues, and one of those sprues is all, it's a small sprue, but one of the sprues is all sort of, all the extras, like the storm bolters, the satellite dish, the hunter killer, all those kind of things. And this, you just get the volley gun and the plague spitter barrels. That's it. There's no extra parts. So I do sort of question the £40. I think at £30 that would have been great, but then again, when they're sort of charging £30 for a bloat drone, yeah, £10 more for all that plastic and all the rest of it it's difficult to say. I've thought long and hard whether this is actually worth £40, because it's not a huge kit. It is bigger than a Predator, but it doesn't have as many sort of moving parts, detailed interior and things like that. So I think it would have been best if it was 30 or 35 at the most, but I think £40 is too much when you look at it compared to like a Vindicator, which again is £35. You look at it compared to that. It is a wider tank, just barely wider, but it is it's not really longer, but yeah, compared to like a Vindicator, which is £35, you know, that comes with all the little extras and things. It's got the side doors, it's got the rear hatch, which you can, you know, with a fully detailed interior if you want to do it that way. Yeah, it's just triggered me to do a comparison with a Predator, which has your movable side sponsons, your movable sort of visor guard, it has your turret, and then it has your other options like the heavy bolters, which, yeah, I suppose it's in a similar position to that. You can't really sort of magnetise them unless you work really hard on it. It's difficult to say. I mean, as a one-off piece, as a one-off sort of heavy support piece, it's pretty good, and it does fit the aesthetics very well for the Death Guard army. So what I'll do now is I'll just show you some size comparisons. So you've seen the size comparison next to a Vindicator and a Predator, but next to a sort of standard sort of Mini Marine, does sort of dwarf the Mini Marine quite well, especially these entropy cannons. Next to a Primaris, sort of works well next to that, and then a normal Death Guard. Like I say, it really does, you know, it takes a lot of the cues out with the Bros spikes and the pitted armour and things. It does work quite well. The only issue with sort of pitted armour and cracks and scars that you have on tanks is that if you get another one, it's going to have those pitted and the pits and the scars and boils and things in exactly the same place, and that's my only sort of issue regarding sort of continuity of models. Next to Typhus, I mean, Typhus looks like he's ready to sort of crack it open maybe, but there you go. Yeah, and I've already showed you it next to a bloat drone. So it is smaller than I thought it would be. I don't know why, I just thought it'd be a bit longer, but it looks like it's quite sort of stunted as a tank. But there you go. So this is my part of the video where I'll talk to you about the rules. You'll find this model in the heavy support section of the Death Guard Codex. It's a power level 8, which is way less than even half of a Land Raider. Land Raider's power level 19, so just to put that in perspective. Its weapon skill is 6+, that's what you'd expect. Its toughness is 8, it's got 12 wounds, and Land Raider's got 16. It's got 3 attacks, and those attacks aren't affected by its wounds, whereas Land Raiders is, and it's got a save of 3+. Would have been nice to have a 2+, but a Land Raider's 2+, because it's a Land Raider. Damage wise, it's odd because instead of the attacks being affected, it's always got those 3 attacks, it's actually the strength that's affected. With its remaining wounds of between 6 and 12, so half wounds or more, its movement is 9 inches, which is 1 less than a Land Raider, so it's not too bad considering it's a big sort of artillery piece. Ballistic skill is 4+, which isn't amazing, so it's only, you know, 50-50. Strength is 7. At 3 to 5 wounds, you've got movement of 6 inches. Ballistic skill 5+, strength is 6. And then 1 to 2 wounds, your movement drops all the way down to 4 inches at a crawling pace, the same as a Poxwalker. And its ballistic skill is still 5+ though, so it doesn't drop less than that. And its strength is only 5 then. Now, it's equipped with a Plagueburst mortar, heavy slugger, and 2 plague spitters. Of course, you can replace both the plague spitters with 2 entropy cannons, and it can also replace its heavy slugger with a rot hail volley gun. Its abilities, it's got disgustingly resilient, so you're getting that 5+ to ignore. It's also got 5+ invulnerable on top of that. If it explodes and reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a d6. On a 5+ it explodes. Each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. It's sort of not as good as the Land Raider, although the Land Raider needs a 6 to explode. This only needs a 5+. But like the Land Raider, it's within each unit within 6 inches. However, d3 mortal wounds, whereas the Land Raider is d6. So with the Land Raider exploding, you're definitely getting more of those, possibility of more of those mortal wounds. Now, let's talk about the weapons. We all know what Plague Spitters do. They're like their heavy flamers. They're 9 inches, assault d6, strength user, which, bearing in mind, that does drop the less wounds it's got. So you're getting your Plague Spitter at strength 7 to start off with, and then it's dropping to 6, and then eventually 5. Whereas the Entropy Cannon, its strength doesn't drop. It's a much larger range at 36 inches. It's only a heavy one shot, but its strength is 8. Its AP is -4. So it's pretty much like a las cannon in that regard, and its damage is d6. So you might as well just call these las cannons, but 36 inches. The heavy slugger, which I've equipped mine with, which it comes with already, again is 36 inch range. It's heavy 4, its strength is 5, its AP is only -1 though, and its damage is only 1, and it's not a plague weapon or anything like that, so that's a bit poor. And that would have been nice if the entropy cannon was a plague weapon, but there we go. The Rot Hail volley gun is 24-inch range, heavy 3, but it is strength 6, AP -2, damage 1. Again, that's not a plague weapon though, unfortunately. And then the big star of the show, this Plagueburst mortar. It's got a minimum range though, it's only 12 inches, so minimum range of 12 inches to 48 inches. It's a heavy D6, so you're getting a random amount of shots there. Strength 8, AP -2, which is a bit poor. AP -3 would have been auto include, I think. Damage is D3. It's a plague weapon though, it's pretty decent, and it can target units that are not visible to the firing model. Now that's where this model shines. You've got a model here that you can fire at units that aren't visible. That's incredible. At 40-inch range. Yes, it can move 9 inches, so you've got that, 57-inch range or so. But remember, it does have a ballistic skill of 4+. So it's a 50-50. I mean, you could get lucky, you could get your 6 shots with your mortar, which would be horrific. But then you've only got your 50-50 chance. So that could drop down to 3 shots. But having your damage 3, that's potentially 6 that are going to be hit with a strength 8 weapon. Unfortunately, the AP -2 isn't going to help you much after that though. So it's a decent weapon because it's a high strength weapon. The models don't need to be visible to it, and it's got this damage 3. So it's going to be great against sort of high toughness vehicles, great against high toughness models and units. Not going to be great against units with very decent armor saves like Terminators or characters with good saves. But still, it's a decent long range weapon that has the capacity of blowing up tanks. And furthermore to that, you've got the entropy cannons too. You can go full close range with this vehicle and give it a lot of sort of anti-infantry kind of counter-attacking defensive measures, such as equipping it with the Rot Hail volley gun, which is less range but better strength, and you can give it the plague spitters as well, so you can give it sort of almost the heavy flamers, which will deter units from charging it. And I think if I got another one, I'd probably be very tempted to go with the plague spitters. And there you go, that's all I really wanted to say about the Plagueburst crawler. When I first saw it, I thought it would be my most favourite unit out of the range, but I think I'm more leaning towards the Myphitic Blight Haulers. I still think it's a great looking model, although it's a little bit smaller than I thought it would be. It's quite a straightforward kit, and it works very well with the rest of the range. And the weapons aren't too bad either. Being able to fire at units that you can't see is always very decent. Anyway, what do you guys think of the model? Do you like the model? Do you like the rules? Can you think of any scenarios where sort of 2 or 3 of them would wreak havoc? Please do put it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.